Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Fever get the W in Seattle 78-74. This was the most fun Fever game I have watched in a long time because I was there courtside right underneath the Fever basket. The players were right to my left on the bench. I got to see all the celebrations, all the talking between them, as well as the coaches. I mean, honestly, it was a blast. And I'm going to share my insights of going to Climate Pledge and experiencing this game from this new kind of vantage point, as well as whose signature I ended up getting at the end. But first, let's talk about the game. Now, as I've said before, a win is a win is a win. And I'm proud of the team and the grit that they showed down the stretch. This is a game where they have collapsed before in the fourth quarter, not been able to pull it out. And this game, they were able to find and break the runs when they could at the end and get the scores and put in a lot of effort on defense to make sure that they could try to stifle the Storm and stave off an overtime, which the Storm just came off a double overtime. So getting the win on the road, this is big for them. Fifth win in a row. Huge for the franchise. It's been a long time since they've had a winning streak like that, as well as the standings. If we go look at the standings right now, the Fever are 17-12. They're in the hunt. They're right behind the Phoenix Mercury. They jumped ahead of the Storm, and they're on the heels of the Dream and the Liberty. So if the Fever keep winning, if they keep putting together, if they integrate Clark well when she gets back, I mean, they're off to the races. So this is still a good sign for this team. Now, getting into the players, Tosh was stellar tonight. And again, it was one of those great nights where every shot that you think wouldn't go in, she's just a magician and made it go in. Like floaters, one arm spinning off, falling off to the side shots with for and ones. Like it was all there tonight on top of 5 assists. So it's great to have a team that again can have different players have nights that you're deep enough that you just have different players contributing. You have some consistent mainstays, but someone's popping off night to night, even if your best players or highest scorers typically are not having a good night, like Kelsey Mitchell, which, you know, no matter what she did, the ball just seemed to not go in. It was one of those nights. She very much seemed like she was in her head. You could see the frustration on her face, even in free throws. The ball just, dancing and teasing her and not going in. But she did facilitate down the stretch and she did score meaningful buckets in the fourth quarter to help us win this game. Sophie had another fire night tonight, 17 points, 4 for 5 from 3. All the attitude and grit that you would need from her. Actually, I have a funny little story at the end for for you with her. Ari didn't hit any threes tonight. That was not great for her. However, everyone on this team, I'm going to be honest, didn't they just kind of looked off tonight in the shooting. Like in shoot arounds, it was kind of like the only players that were doing good in shoot arounds were Sophie and Tosh. Like when they came out for their warm-ups, like they were sinking stuff. But everybody else was kind of like, inconsistent, and it seemed to carry over into the game. But Ari did a great job. She had 9 assists in this game and, you know, had some great steals, had a great recovery off of a Kelsey Mitchell, fumble off of a steal to find, players. And I just really liked the hustle from the team all around, including from Aaliyah Boston, who, again, just solid as always. She is a rock for this team. And again, she got caught out a little bit when she, doesn't make a secondary move. She just kind of goes to the basket. NECA had a really good time block on her. But other than that, she's making moves. She's getting pressure down low. She's finding passes, making the offense work. But she is working so hard on defense for this team, both ends of the floor. And she definitely deserves credit for the win tonight as well. Now, the only other players who got minutes tonight were Colson, Bibby, Hall, and Dantas. Now, for Colson, 3 turnovers in 7 minutes. Like, that's rough, girl, man. That's pretty rough. Some of her minutes came from players asking to get out. Kelsey Mitchell having trouble, and then Ari actually took a screen and got some chin music. Had to step out for a little bit. Was on the bench, nursing it a little bit in this game, and so that's kind of why Colson got into the game. But even then, it's like we really got to take care of the ball, Colson. Like we're bringing in there. Like this is your time to prove yourself. And it's kind of been lost possessions with her, or strings of stuff that are just really egregious, and she gets yanked. But it's just, I we need better minutes from her, especially if she's going to be a spot player. We need better minutes from her. Lexi did great tonight. Two great assists from her. Great on defense. One that was absolutely beautiful to Tosh when she off of a rebound. Bibby, I think struggled because of rotations. I think that Noel Quinn and the Storm did a really good job of that. Whenever White would sub in Bibby, they would go to a very tall lineup. She would end up in matchups on Dominique Malonga. She also is notoriously not a great transition defender, and so she got caught in that a little bit. So she didn't have the best minutes, but she did have one great assist inside where she had her high release, but she just turned it into a pass. And I thought that was a brilliant play from her in this game. Now, the one thing that I really just again didn't like tonight, and you can look at results and play the results game all you want, but I think fundamentally the coaches are seeing matchups or reads and they really believe in them and they're trying to force them. But there are too many moments that when Dontos was in, they were trying to run the offense through her as a post player. And clearly they saw something that they thought would work. Dontos ended up shooting, 40% tonight. She did make some baskets. But I just struggle to feel like this is our best play when we sub her in, and like this is what we're gonna kind of go to. And she yipped a lot of shots that probably would have been makeable if we were trying to run through a different player or we were having other options, because it felt like the offense basically all became focused around her. It wasn't like we were reading and trying to find another open person. It became really about like Dontas is posting up and we're feeding her like she's Aaliyah Boston. I just don't think that's the play for this team and this offense. I think we have so many talented weapons that I don't know why we'd be doing this. Overall, I think that Timpson would have fit in again great in this game. She's super athletic, so she can run the floor. She has hops. She can battle with the tall players, and she's also proven that she can score in games. So it's really hard for me to look at this game, look at Dontos minutes, and not go, "Hey, like where are those minutes? Like, why are we not seeing her in this game?" Now, as for Climate Pledge itself, in my experience, now I have never sat courtside underneath the basket in a WNBA game. It was a cool perspective, honestly. It's a lot more action packed. It's definitely different seeing it, from a side shot versus down the length of the court. And even though, even when they were making plays on the other side of the court, you still got a really cool perspective. And also, it's cool to be near the players and the bench and to see things and interactions that you normally wouldn't catch, on broadcast or in maybe another position on the floor. And so for this, besides the close up action, like the actual seats were great. They were super comfortable. There were individual seats I could move around. I had a little desk in front of me. I had a wireless charger. There was food you could order to your seat and drinks and stuff like that. So I was pretty much set for this game as far as amenities and all that stuff goes. Like I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. So from Climate Pledge perspective, easy to get the seats. Everything was great. I really like Climate Pledge as a venue, and these seats were great. I would likely get them again. As for signings, which I was actually close to, I was actually kind of excited that, like, hey, if we're going to get a lot of signings, I'm right next to the bench. I'm right in the thick of things. I'm right near the railing where the players are going to be walking to get signings. However, I don't know what was up tonight, but it felt like something was up because the Fever players, maybe it's because they're on road games, maybe it's because there's something else in the background, security wise, or something was going on, but they weren't very keen on signing during shoot around during any moment of the night. Uh, Clark signed nothing, which was weird after hearing all the stories of tales of her going into the stands to sign a bunch of stuff. Didn't stick around before, didn't stick around after. They kind of ushered everybody out and called it a day. Kelsey Mitchell did come through, and Aaliyah Boston did come through, which, speaking of Aaliyah Boston, did get the jersey signed. Yes, indeed. That was great to finally get and add to the collection. I've had the jersey in the background of my videos for a while, but to actually get to a game and get her to sign. So shout out to Aaliyah for taking the time, because I know it's a lot, which I'll talk a little about that perspective, but also shout out to Aaliyah's assistant. I didn't catch her name, but she's the one that really kind of hooked it up, that saw that we really wanted Aaliyah's signature. So shout out to her. You're the real MVP tonight. But besides that, I think that signings are interesting. Beyond like the players weren't too keen on it, I can kind of understand some of the perspective now that like I was in this game, mainly because, for example, there were some kids nearby that were like during the first quarter, any stoppage of play, sometimes during plays when the ball was on the other side of the court, they were yelling for Caitlin Clark to try to get her attention. And it wasn't just that like they were like fans that they wanted her to sign something. Like because I heard their conversations, the kids like they were clearly Storm fans. They're rooting for the Storm. I think that it seems like they were actually trying to troll Caitlin Clark for some reason. I don't know why. And so it's one of those weird situations that kind of just like maybe is like, kids are going to be kids, but it's like it definitely gave the vibes of like children that have like rich parents that never like parented them or told them no. Like that was the vibe I was getting from these kids. And it's like it has to be at some point a little bit exhausting, not just the kids, but adults too. That were yelling at Aaliyah Boston a lot during the game or trying to get Caitlin Clark's attention or other players' attention. That at some point as a player, yes, it comes with the territory of your job that there are going to be fan interactions and giving back to the fans is great. And there's a lot of positive talk about interaction with fans. However, I have to believe it does get soured at some point. Like there is a line where it's like at some point, it's no longer that you are like their favorite player or it's a fan interaction. It makes you feel more like you're a spectacle in a zoo and they're just trying to like rattle the cage to get a reaction or attention out of you. And so I gotta imagine that like a lot of times like they're trying to like tune people out and it's very obvious and it probably like takes a little bit of some fun out of it. Um but again, I don't know what's happening with signings tonight, but in that could be on the road stuff. I don't know, but it definitely was obvious that players weren't as keen to go and sign things tonight. Now, with all that said, I was also close to the bench. So there was a lot of cool stuff that I got to see on the bench, which clearly their one thing is like this team loves each other. Like they're having so much freaking fun together on the bench, in shoot arounds, playing around with each other. Like they're having a blast and they're tight knit, like all the way down the line. There's so many think pieces about all these like different fractures or other things that people want to like drive a wedge in, but this team is tight. The person that you always hear calling the shot clock for the Indiana Fever is Bree Turner. Bree Turner, her voice just like cuts through everything. But whenever you hear someone on broadcast is counting down, the 10, 9, 8, this is calling down the shot clock. That's Bree Turner on the sideline. So it's like she's engaged always, no matter what side of the court they're on. She is yelling it down the court, which is cool to see. And it's easy to be like if a player was completely checked out, they're not getting playing time. They could just sit there at the end of the bench. If Bree Turner really didn't like it here, she could just sit down at the end of the bench. But she is contributing in any way she can, and that's one of the ways that she is contributing. I think that was a cool thing. Now, the coaches, like this coaching staff, they are in it. They are really in it. And even just looking at their engagement on the sideline, in huddles for plays, momentary moments out of like during when player comes to the bench, in the shooting roundup, like this, they are really going hard on preparing the players and helping them make adjustments in the game. Like there's clearly they are scouting really hard and there's a lot of scout going into these games and the adjustments and the calls that they are making, it's like very clear in the moment what they are doing with the team, and the team has a lot of depth of knowledge about what they're looking for, what they're trying to stop, so on and so forth. But specifically Breon January, like she's an absolute boss. Like the workout she was doing with Ari before game, working out with her, prepping her for the game, walking over a scout, that kind of stuff, really in-depth stuff. And also very vocal on the sideline, especially during terrible ref calls during this game. There was quite a few, especially the Leah Boston elbow one was really bad. The jump ball one was really bad. Obviously, Coach Clark was out there. There's a few moments of Coach Clark actually dagger staring down the sidelines at the referees during reviews and other things, but all that to be expected in a Fever game. But there was one play that stood out to me most about how much these coaches care and the prep and the work that they're doing with the team. And that was like on broadcast, you didn't see it. I actually went back and looked. But there's a moment, in the second half where Sophie Cunningham gets a wide open three look and she passes it up. And eventually the ball passes around. It gets into Tosh, and Tosh makes this amazing, falling away and one shot. So it gets salvaged. However, what you didn't see on broadcast is that when Sophie Cunningham passes up that open shot, because they just came out of timeout, they drew up this play. Sophie gets that wide open look. She's hot tonight. Like, again, the coaching staff is trying to set up these players that are hitting shots to get the good looks, and they get the good look, and she passed up. And when I tell you this coaching staff was heated, they were heated that she passed up that shot. Like, I'm pretty sure that Christmas actually slammed like the board that they drew up the play onto the ground. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, man, they really care. They're really heated. And Sophie, to her credit, even afterwards, even though they made the shot and all that stuff, she turned to the bench of the coaches. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she made it up later and hit a three. But it's one of those things where it's like you gain a new appreciation for the things behind the scenes and the actual like engagement effort down the bench to the coaches, to everyone on the team, and how much they are supporting each other and how much they are invested in the game and setting the players up for success and setting each other up for success. So now there's so much other stuff I could go in, but I'm sure this video is getting pretty long. So with all that said, if you saw me on TV, leave a comment down below. There's a few points where I was definitely on there, which, you like some of them, you don't like some of them. Stuff happens. I think I was trying to be a little bit more reserved than I wanted to be on the floor just because of some of the people around me. But with all that said, let me know what your favorite play of the game was. And as always, remember, you're going to be amazing today because you are amazing. And I'll catch you next episode.